the next time, remember my thing. I'll be a motherfucker if you stick. Be a man, be a sissy, it's all in your way. You'll be my baby boy if you disrespect me. You're gonna get busy, come on with it. I got a lock in my sock with your name on it. If you're gonna lock up for protection's sake, I'll holler at you another day. You can't escape my prison wall.
Welcome back to Stories from the Penitentiary. As always, I'm your host, Big White. In this video, we are going to discuss my correspondence with murderer Caleb Fairley. For those who aren't familiar, Mr. Fairley is a murderer from Pennsylvania. He actually killed Lisa Marie Mandrak, who was 29, and her 18-month-old daughter Devin, on September. Was it September? I'm sorry. On September 10th, 1995, is when it happened. She was visiting a children's clothing store in Collegeville, Pennsylvania. She encountered Mr. Fairley. He tried to sexually assault her. She resisted, so he strangled her and her infant daughter and then proceeded to have sex with Mrs. Mandrak's corpse after she was dead. And then he went to an Electric Hellfire concert that night. Unreal what some of these people do, like, immediately after murders. Like the one dude that killed his parents and then went to a Neil Diamond show that night. Like nothing ever happened. But that's who Mr. Fairley is. We have a little over 2-page type letter. But we've also got a little over 3-page front and back typed enhanced quarantine journal. So we'll have to see what that is. As far as the letter, it says, "Dear Mr. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Thank you for taking the time to write me. Your letter was postmarked the 19th, but I didn't receive it until this month. I have been to Atlantic City. My grandma had a house in Margate, just a couple blocks from the Margate end of the boardwalk, which I like to walk or bike ride up to, and even past the casinos. We also visited the giant elephant Lucy." That's pretty crazy that we share a lot of stuff that we've done as kids, apparently. There are a couple people, minus the Margate. There are a couple people who write me regularly. Several more who write irregularly and infrequently. Thank you for keeping an open mind concerning the media's sensationalism. While I'm the first to admit that what I did is horrible, what is portrayed on TV is 95% untrue. Either fabrications based on speculation or outright lies to make the cops and DA look good. This is on top of the sensationalism you mentioned. I was taken to the county prison at like 2 a.m., though only clear thing I remember is walking between two guards, handcuffed between my back and still covering my backside lest someone tried to jump me. By the time I got to prison, I had entered a super depressed state. I had done the one thing I thought myself incapable of doing, and as far as I was concerned, my life was over. So I just slept, not really tired beyond that initial late night, just no real reason to wake up. How do inmates and guards treat me? It runs the gamut. I've been threatened and harassed by both, spat at and on by inmates, had mail stolen by a CO that happened back at Western. I've also made some great friends, brothers, who are closer to me than my own family. How I pass the time has changed several times over the years. After Jesus found me and saved me in that county prison cell, I read and studied the Bible all day, like 8 hours a day. Later, I took up painting, mostly still lifes and landscapes. That helped me get through the lifeless, colorless environment at Western. Here at SCI Fayette, I do Bible study on the block, heavily involved in the church, and I write. I read a lot, I watch some TV, play games on my tablet, and listen to music. I also exercise. My preferred leisure reading genre is fantasy, also sci-fi and horror. My favorite authors are R.A. Salvatore, Raymond Feist, Robert Jordan. I love The Hobbit. Lord of the Rings is okay. I enjoy the Druzit series, though I didn't enjoy the last couple books as much, but I understand why he did what he did. You asked if prison is something you ever get used to, or is it just something you endure? The answer to that is yes. Humans are incredibly adaptable and can get used to anything. However, I don't think that's what you were really asking. I mean, it's what I was asking is open to, interpretation, however he wanted to answer it. So, I mean, there's no real, right or wrong answer in anything that I asked. There was a man back at Western who knew who he was in prison and what he needed to do. He was used to prison. Being polite, when I'd see him, I'd greet him, "How you doing today?" And parting, say, "Have a nice day." One day he blew up on me. He went off on every day I ask how he's doing and tell him to have a good day. "I'm in prison. How you think I'm doing?" Etc. He endured prison. He got out and was back within a month. I fought myself from commenting to him, "Well, I guess you were doing pretty good in prison since you came back so quick." Would that be such an asshole thing to say? I hate this place. I endure an unhealthy mix of stress and boredom, flavored with depression and daily frustration at the stupidness and insanity of those around me. Yet I am also content, which is only by the grace of God. In here we ask, how much time are you doing? What kind of time you got or looking at? However, Ephesians 5:16 from the King James Version reads, redeeming the time because the days are evil. Whatever brought a person to jail, whether the sins of others, like a man framed by the cops, or one's own sins, like in my case, there is an opportunity. I can just do time, or I can redeem it, buy it back from its original purpose so it may be used for something better. Jesus in Matthew 25 tells a parable about the kingdom of heaven illustrated by sheep and goats. The sheep are rewarded for visiting Jesus in prison. Whatever you did to the least of those you have done to me. My sin may have brought me to prison, but by God's grace I can redeem that and transform a punishment into a waste on society's resources. Now I am visiting Jesus in prison, not just doing time. If a Christian is called to be a missionary to Africa, where does he live? What does he eat? How does he dress? Does he continue to live in USA, dressing and eating as he used to? Or does he move to Africa, eat with the villagers, etc., and dress accordingly? Don't get me wrong, I'm not making light of what I've done, and I wish I thought like this back when I was on the streets. I will always regret what I've done, and my life has been spared and soul saved. If I just sit on my butt, veg out watching TV, and just pump iron all day so I can be intimidating to others, then what the hell, used intentionally, is the point? All I'm doing then is making my life and that of those around me hell. Amenities I miss the most, Charmin, and hot, quiet showers whenever I want. That and maybe Pizza Hut, although based on all I see on TV, the one real amenity I would like to have access to is the internet and the communication it affords, Twitter, etc. One day of freedom to whatever I wanted. Not really a big deal for me. Via mail, I've befriended people in PA, Ohio, New Jersey, Montana, Wisconsin, New York, and minister to them and even the people in other states, even in prisons in other states, except when I'm goofing off or depressed. Being in prison only limits ease of access and mobility and food choices. Now that I'm no longer imprisoned by my own self-lies, delusions, and illusions, and misconceptions and preconceptions, I'm actually freer now than I was on the streets. Yes, there are days when things get to me. I'll be watching pit bulls and parolees and I wish I could get a dog, or watching Impractical Jokers and wish I could go to that amusement park or restaurant they're filming at, and I wonder, what the hell did how the hell did I get here? I ruined my life, which can then lead me to thinking of all the other lives I've ruined. Even something like a series I hear talked about like Game of Thrones or Stranger Things. However, when I remember how I got here and who I am now, along with that, my purpose is, and I'm able to let that stuff go. I watch river monsters and see this guy in Africa fishing, and the people in the village are surviving on less than I have in prison. If I were to only have one day of freedom, I guess I'd attend a real church service and go for a long walk in the woods and swim in the ocean. I gotta stop for a second. There's a very... Anybody that's been watching this channel for a while now and has gone through quite a few of these videos, if not all of them, on this journey with me, walking in the woods has become a major theme for what people would do if they had one day of freedom. Like even the last video we just did, where I believe it was Lindsay. What does she want to do? Take her family in the woods with instruments. The video before that, I believe, said the same shit. Go in the woods for a walk. Every single person just wants to go for a walk in the woods in nature, essentially. Amazing. That is like almost the universal answer. I don't know why that's so amazing to me, but I just find it absolutely fascinating that all these people with no type of connection other than being in prison all essentially say the same shit. I just want to go for a walk in the woods and enjoy nature. Think about how many times a day you do that, or you could do that, and you take this shit for granted. Again, it's fucking amazing. I'm sorry. Let me get back to where the fuck I'm at here. It got me all fucking lost here and shit. Swim in the wood, walk in the woods and swim in the ocean. The quiet nature and chance to actually be alone, to have actual privacy. That, and I love the ocean. Back before Easter, the jail locked down because of COVID. When we were finally let out, we had to wear masks, and only cohorts of 10 cells were out at a time. Meals were and still are brought to the block. There are no outside activities, programs, jobs, library. We got like 1 hour day room each day, and the same of block yard every other day. Eventually, as things outside the jail settled down, they expanded the cohorts to about 21 cells. We got 2 sessions of day room each day and 1 a block yard. Eventually, we were allowed back out to the main yard about 1 week. Then the gym and library reopened, one gym week every 2 weeks or so for library. Kitchen works were exposed to possible COVID, so those specific cells were quarantined. Then they started moving men around based on job sites, license plates on D, my block. All kitchen workers were on 1 block F, maintenance on H, and CI, furniture and license plates on D, my block. Things were fine while all CI was moved to the block. Only about half of them were actually allowed to go to work. Everyone still gets paid whether they're allowed to work or not, but CI gets bonuses for meeting quotas, and only those who go to work get those. Then they wanted all the guys going to work on one side of the block, so they moved like 5 cells on Friday. I think this was Labor Day weekend. Then they moved everyone else on Tuesday. I, in 8 cell, was kicked out and moved upstairs to 58 because someone who had in with the CO in charge of the moves got his buddy moved with him. I have a kind of PTSD with moving cells after what happened when I was moved to C block. It took a week for my mind to settle enough to actually see the blessings of the move and get back to living my life. Things continued until my cohort was placed on enhanced quarantine. EQC enclosed journal, missing day 1. That actually lasted 15 days because they had to wait for central office in Harrisburg to sign off on our coming off EQ. Apparently, some of A side of the block, I'm on B side, is also on EQ, but apparently they're still being allowed access to the block yard. It's a little confusing. There's also a rumor that due to the COVID resurgence, the jail may roll things back in here. Still, from what I hear coming out of other prisons and state rumors, but also from people I know who write and visit with inmates in other states, we're doing all right. There's only been like 1 COVID case in here. I can't remember if that's 1 positive or 1 death. But while there has been some EQs, there hasn't been much sickness. Just a lot of frustration and changes. This is a lot, so I'm going to close. God bless you and keep you. Sincerely, Caleb Fairley. P.S. I'm only allowed 1 ounce in a free postage envelope. That's why these pages are the way they are. I guess he's talking about just folded up and all kinds of crazy. I guess I'm assuming you guys are going to want to hear the enhanced quarantine journal. So we will go through that now. It says it starts on, so we're missing day 1. So this would be day 2, be November 19th. So what they did was sort of give us the 7 to 8:20 p.m. time slot. That's got delayed because of waiting for a nurse to come to pass out meds. Also, we didn't actually have day room. We were allowed out for 30 minutes to use the phone, shower, and kiosk, but if everything was being used, we had to wait in our cells. I got to talk to my mom and get my postage slip signed and stamped, so that was good. It was funny, the COs never wear gloves, and when she signs that stuff, which bothers me, since she's a possible vector to bring stuff in, but this time when I asked her to sign and stamp, she first gloved up. Today, once the nurses came by doing their temp checks, I did an hour plus of exercise, pacing, push-ups, squats. I haven't done squats since moving upstairs, but since my knees aren't getting the wears before, I put them back in. I also do a low-impact version of a jumping jack instead of jumping. I just do wide steps to either side while bringing my hands up over my head. I also do a standing high knee rise where I raise my right knee while twisting to bring my left elbow down to it while holding my hands behind my ears. I found out on talking to my mom that they're not taking my temp 2 times. The finger thing is actually measuring my pulse oxygen in my bloodstream. When they did this before all this, my number was always pretty close to average body temp, and since my doc on the site or state always took my temp during checkups, I assume that's what they were doing. Thursday is linen exchange day, so I've had my bed stripped, but it's almost 2 and no new sheets for us thus far. We did get our ration of soap and TP, which they popped our doors open to get. Tomorrow our laundry comes back. I wonder what they'll do to get that to us. The bags are frequently damp, so I pray they don't make us wait until we come out to get them. My plan is after their second temp check, I'm going to do another session of exercise and then get a shower tonight. A buddy, when we came out last night, gave me a bag of food with paperwork to type. I warned him that me typewriter's memory is in use. I'm keeping this diary in memory. I was able to get his pages done and had fresh cucumber in my evening soup, and I'll have raw carrots with dinner tonight. Yeah. The staff coming around weren't wearing paper smocks. I wonder if that's more out of initial fear of someone out of anger at being locked down, throwing something out the pie slot. I know that happens in the hole and has happened on occasion on other blocks or other jails during extended lockdowns. yet I've never seen the smocks before, so who knows. 11:21, so this is 2 days later. I was doing some legal typing for a guy and ran out of memory. Yesterday, the sergeant brought our laundry to our cells and gave it to us through the slots, which is a little funny since they opened our doors for us to grab our own TP and soap. Of course, he didn't wait till all the laundry was done, so he ended up reopening my slot 3 to 4 times as more of my laundry was found. I had been a little anxious Thursday about whether I'd get my laundry back. I had swapped in some older bags and was now wondering if I had put on the laundry marker, or since I hadn't updated my cell location on them, if they would give me back the guy in my old cell and whether he would notice and turn them back in. I got everything back. The sergeant is a good guy. That day, my cohort was scheduled to have the final 2 day room slots. So after letting out the block yard, he let half the cohort out for 1 hour and let them actually use the day room, brought them in early compared to norm, and the second half was waiting. Someone started yelling out their door about them messing with his rec. The CO, not sure if it was the sergeant or the pod officer, answered back, "I only have to let you have 30 minutes, which of course garnered an unnecessary response. Well, eventually we got out for about an hour, so I was able to make a couple phone calls, which was nice. While out in the day room, I noticed a fruit box that still had bananas in it, so I asked if I could have some. The CO brought me the box, and I grabbed a bunch of green bananas. I probably could have taken them all, but it was a full bunch, and they were all green, and I figured when other guys saw me with them, they would want some as well, so I left the rest. I never saw anyone else go for bananas." The in-house movie was Tremor 7. That's funny. You know what? I just watched that like 2 days ago, and surprisingly good. The whole franchise has done a good job of walking the fine line of a crazy concept done over and over while embracing its own ridiculousness and yet not coming across as goofy or too corny or cheesy like some of the last of the original Godzilla movies. I got a few hours sleep, then woke up to watch TCM Underground. Both movies were corny, nice concepts, but were poorly executed. Then I went back to sleep and slept till lunch, briefly waking up to get my breakfast bag and get my temperature check. I tend to sleep on my side, which causes the lower arm to fall asleep. I was on my right side, and then the nurse came around, so I asked if it mattered which finger I gave her, not realizing how that sounded. She responded, "No, just don't give her the finger I wanted." I explained how my hand was just coming out of being asleep and figured it might be better to get a reading from the left hand. It was a nice bit of humor. The CO, when he brought our meals, was overly methodical and complicated. He first opened all the tray slots. Then for breakfast, he passed out all the milk. Then he passed out all the bags and finally realized he can pass more than one thing. So also gave us our fruit. For lunch, he had gotten himself so worked up, he stripped down to a t-shirt and paper smock, barely hanging on him since he was too hot to tie it around. They started coming around more for our trash. At first, they did it only once. I guess they got tired of the piles of trash left out after 8:30 when we finished our brief stint in the day room. 11:23. On Saturday, they let us, the entire cohort, out for day room at 2:30. Then yesterday, they didn't reschedule any day rooms, and we were let out for 30 minutes, half the cohort at a time. After counting at 8:30 p.m., today they rescheduled one day room on B-side only, so most likely we'll have our time at 7. We did get our commissary this morning. Most cells had their doors open to receive their bags, while a few bags just went through the tray slots. During this EQ, there's been some other changes. Months ago, they started bringing our lunch in reusable hard plastic trays. Often these trays have white residue from the washing process. I don't know if it's mineral deposit from the water, soap not being rinsed properly, or something else. Now they've gone back to the styrofoam trays, so we're doing our part to help the environment and create more landfills. Anyways, normally the silverware and condiments are inside the tray. Apparently someone complained about the staff getting fouled by the food. Now they give us that stuff separately. Oh, complained about that stuff getting fouled by the food. Now they give that stuff separately. However, in the past, the bread was on top of the condiment bag. Now it's not, and it's frequently soggy from the canned fruit syrup of the water and the boiled veggies. Lunch is also coming to the block later. I'm thinking that's because we're getting special trays and eating last. Though that wouldn't hold up if there were other units with EQ cohorts were actually being fed at the same time it was done before COVID. One other change, which has nothing to do with the EQ, is that the CI, or at least some of them, only come back to the block for lunch. They used to stay on the block for count and go back to work at 1. Now, after lunch, they go back to work before the 12:30 count. So, back to the day. After commissary, I cleaned my cell. I made a little drain plug for the sink. I filled it up with hot water, add a scoop of all laundry powder, and fold up sections of paper towels. Thanks to how they did commissary, I had a plastic bag to throw all the wet, dirty towels in. It was weird. I don't want people living in the cell. I don't know what people living in the cell before me did to the floor, but it's not exactly smooth. It was like it was sticky, but only with regards to the wet towels. I've had rough floors with shred towels. This wasn't like that. Regardless, it's clean and we should be off this EQ next week. I've one final humorous account. Since I had nothing urgent to do during our stint in the day room, I was milling about when I saw a stack of tablets on an empty kiosk waiting to be synced. The owners were on the phone or in the shower. I decided to stand there and sync one after the other. That particular kiosk, 3 on the block, is right next to the door into the staff hallway leading to the control room. The pod CO was a woman, Miss Allie, and the older woman, whom I've always found to be nice and polite. While I stood there, the sergeant comes rushing out, declaring over his shoulder, I'm not going to leave her out there alone. As far as I know, she was out alone with guys in day room all shift. Now all of a sudden, just because it's after count, has removed all constraints or something. Maybe it's the quarantine or version of sundowner syndrome turning us psychotic. 11:24. By now you have guessed I write these entries in the morning and afternoon. By now I'd have thought it wouldn't need to keep journaling as things would have settled into a routine. Nope, this morning the regular pod CO was working and he passed out our breakfast bags. For a week, the only time we've been told to put a mask on while still being locked in our cells was for temp checks. Now he wants us to put the mask on to grab our bag. I guess he's afraid we'll bend all the way over to waist level, angle our heads to sneeze or spit up through the tray slot at him. The laundry goes out Tuesday a.m. Carts are put out Monday. Most guys put their stuff in then. All of a sudden, this morning, they announced for my cohort to get their laundry ready. I look out the door window and see the sergeant and both pod COs in plastic face shields and paper smocks telling the inmate workers to all lock in. It was comical. Then only the sergeant comes upstairs. He'll throw the laundry down. I mean, at this point, I'm starting to wonder when the hazmat suits are going to come out. I ask if this is just a regular laundry since we turned our stuff in last night. Well, all but a few, it turns out. I and the nearby cell are still wondering about linens. I don't think they ever ran the last day room, which wasn't completely scheduled for this cohort anyways. I didn't hear them call for CI or welding or hit doors for other workers. Late, it's like 30-45 minutes late, I finally saw a couple of guys hanging out in the day room just a minute or so ago, they announced for A side something about not being able to go to work. So I don't know if something else is going on or if it's another cohort on A side is now on EQ or what. They just did announce cells 1 to 21 for day room. I just looked out the door. There's one guy I can see in the day room. I also saw the CO and nurse coming around for temp checks. They're not opening the slots though. They're opening the doors. I just throw my shorts on. It's the Chinese fault. They said, may you live in interesting times. This afternoon was a bit different. The CO let us go maskless as he put food trays in our doors, nor did he have a paper smock or face shield on. After lunch, I heard them announce for the CI workers on B side to go to work. At 1, they announced pass movement for B side only. However, when they called day room, they called for the cohort for A and B side to come out. So I don't know what's going on. 11:25. Today I saw a maintenance man in one of those paper smocks. The cells are built in stacked blocks of 4, 2 up and 2 down. A plumbing maintenance shaft runs down between them. The maintenance guy working in that area. He was at the far end of the cohort, so I don't know if the cell door was open. Normally it would be, but I only saw him in the plumbing area. They exchanged our linens today. That was nice. They also did something to the hot water. I had thought it was off, then it was back on during noon count. Now it's off again. I don't think it's actually off. I think they readjusted the flow so that while the showers are in use, the cells don't get any or only get enough so the water isn't ice cold. It's still colder than room temperature. Having said that, I pray we don't get out for showers until after the 8:30 count, so we're the only ones using the showers. One thing I've been grateful for is this EQ happened now in late fall or early winter. We've had hot water, but we've also had water that's nice and cold. I don't mind the tap water. I only use the water fountain in the summer because the cell water never gets cold and it's nasty while tepid. There's only a couple times when guys have been yelling through their doors, so that's been nice. I did discover last night that the cell caddy corner to mine, their cell light shines right in my door to the end of my bunk. They were up at midnight with the light on and it was in my eyes and as I was trying to sleep. I don't understand that. Many guys are staying up late and sleeping during the day, but there's not much on late night TV and you still have to wake up during the day, temperature checks, count, meals, etc. For me, the constant announcements also wake me up or keep me awake. It sounded like the CI workers on both sides of the block went to work today. 11:26, happy Thanksgiving. Anyways, last night my cohort got our time before count. After count at 9 p.m., the bubble CO announced the termination of day room on the A side. Today I'm keeping track of the cohorts they call for block yard to see who else is on EQ. The showers last night were lukewarm. Today there is no hot water. It's not even tepid. Our pod CO is apparently taking it easy today. All of a sudden the inmate workers are allowed to come to our cells. For breakfast they put our bags, milk and banana on the floor in front of our cells. The pod CO then started hitting doors one at a time, first to grab our food. They did the same for lunch. I was wondering about lunch because we traditionally get a little more food for Thanksgiving and Christmas lunches. We had a styrofoam tray with peas, pumpkin pie with whipped cream, instant mashed potatoes, gravy, half a stuffing ball, and turkey. A paper bag had our silverware and condiments and 2 dinner rolls. Then we had a little pudding cup with cranberry sauce. The turkey is interesting. It's sort of partially processed. It comes like sliced turkey, but it's like someone took white and dark meat, compressed it together till it stuck, then sliced it. The rolls are those little prepackaged mini hot dog looking things. They're nice. I split them and put the cranberry sauce on them like jelly. I'm so glad this EQ is almost done. Though last night I heard a rumor that the jail might be backing things down, bringing back the earlier restrictions and even possibly cohort size with less time out. This is on the account of COVID's resurgence on the streets. If what I'm hearing about multiple cohorts in this jail being under EQ, I sort of believe that rumor. We'll see what happens. 1127. I still cannot tell if another cohort on the block is under EQ. They keep making these weird announcements that sound like they are, but they've canceled every other cohort out for rec or called. The guard again had inmates bring food out to ourselves and later opened our doors to get it. He also had our doors open for temp checks. I slept in, but it sounded like after breakfast he had a worker mop the floors in front of our cells. The first time since this started and probably the only time in a couple of weeks. Now they just put our laundry bags on the floor. Some smaller bags are hanging on railings in front of our cells. They've been there for a while and we still haven't been allowed to get them. I'm a little peeved about my clean laundry being on the floor. I'm more bothered by not being able to get my laundry. I'm pretty common for our bags to come back in various stages of dampness. Normally I try to get my bags ASAP and lay out all my clothes to air dry and not get mildewy from sitting around too long. For that reason, when I see the laundry cart sitting for a while, I'll just start unloading it so I can start airing it out. Tuesday cannot get here soon enough. 1129. This will probably be my last entry as EQ ends Tuesday. I mean, unless something crazy happens like the other night. They let the entire cohort out after count. So of course, guys come running out of their cells to get out the phones and showers. We even have guys running to sync their tablets. So the bubble CO starts yelling about no running. Everyone takes it back in and we'll try again. Which of course no one did. It was like coming out of my cell. I was late coming out of my cell because I had just finished making my dinner, anticipating having 30 minutes for the first half's rec to eat. The same guy who started this yelling about how he doesn't have it and shouldn't be quarantined had to have words with the guards. I think they just made him lock in for the night. I almost got myself in trouble. There's an old outdated rule about wearing shower shoes in the day room. It actually isn't that. The rule is we must come out of our cells properly dressed. This had a lot more leeway back in the day when guys could wear street clothes and guys would be running around in jail in sandals. Back on B block for months, if not years, I'd wear my shower shoes, which are well made and sturdy, in the day room with no problem. Apparently someone else did that on another block and fell running up and down the stairs and hurt himself, so they started cracking down on that rule. Here's the thing, on any block, if there is no day room, you cannot hang out in the day room waiting for a shower. With that in mind, I've heard the COs yelling about only shower shoes can be worn to the showers and not being fully, meaning wearing sweats or browns to the showers. Since moving on the block, day room up meant shower up, and it was okay to sit at a table bench in shower shoes waiting for a shower to open. Now, all of a sudden, they have a problem with shower shoes in the day room, even while just waiting for a shower. Long story not made short, in the middle of the chaos with that guy, the COs all of a sudden remember they made an earlier announcement about no shower shoes. I started to say something, and the CO asked if we'd ever been allowed to wear shower shoes in the day room, which of course I said yes to. That started a whole exchange with him telling me to get my handbook, etc. Thankfully, the Lord put a muzzle on me and a bit in my mouth to turn me from that situation, and I just went, put my sneakers on, and eventually got a shower. For the past couple of days at night, my water pressure has increased, making a slight mess, if I'm not careful, on my floor. When I use the sink, it's gotten worse. The water would lessen during the day. It no longer does. It would only hit the top of the sink. Now it completely clears the sink. This made shaving this morning quite interesting. I hold an empty cup over the faucet, open side down, to run the water and fill my drinking or shaving cup. Now I've got substantial puddles on either side of the sink with my fan aimed at them to dry. Since even getting a drink is a process and my schedule only had me exercising one last time today, before we can resume going back outside, I'm just going to take it easy. No exercise and just lay back listening to music and stuff. On Thanksgiving, I created 2 new playlists on my tablet. Praise Mass and Rock Mass. Basically, I copied my secular rock and Christian praise playlists and added all my Christmas songs, some multiple times to make them put up on shuffle more frequently. Now, until January, if I just want Christmas music, bam, there it is. Or if I want something more like radio where I get normal music and Christmas, bam, I keep things interesting. I do have a couple of Christmas songs so I listen to year-round, like an instrumental piece by Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Christmas in Sarajevo. I also have some Christian songs in my rock playlist. You know, what I just realized, what I named the new playlist was a mashup of the original name and Christmas, but Christmas only has one S at the end, and I use 2. It's not a big deal, but considering how OCD I get about certain things, I'm a little surprised by that. And that ends our letter, our log, everything from Caleb Fairley. Thanks as always for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. And until next time.